Hello, everybody. So, HIMSS will be reporting its earnings on Monday evening, and I expect this to be a big topic of conversation on social media until that date comes. So, I kind of want to give my take as to what I expect for HIMSS in the earnings coming up, and also in the next few quarters. And my stance on the next few years. My stance in 2030. In 2030, I think HIMSS is going to be huge. I think people are just going to pay out of pocket for any small to medium healthcare issue. They're just going to use a digital doctor, pay out of pocket, do everything remote. That's my long-term view. But let's talk a little bit more about the short term here today. So, of course, in Q2, and that was largely expected, in Q2 we had a drop in revenue due to the end of a partnership with Novo. Novo abruptly ended the partnership, and we had a major drop in Q2. So that was an extraneous factor, right? It was not the doing of HIMSS. That's the main reason why we drop. And so the key question for Q3 is that halt declining? Or are we even slightly back up in Q3? I would be happy even with slightly down. I just want to see the halt in revenue, this decrease in revenue stop, and I think this decrease in revenue will largely have stopped because in my view, when they stopped the partnership, they lost a bunch of customers right away because branded semaglutide was not available right away. The other issue in Q2, of course, in this mid-quarter loss of branded semaglutide, is that they had spent much on marketing trying to promote a product, so they were expecting sales that all of a sudden could not happen anymore. So all of your marketing spend was likely wasted because you were promoting a product, people coming on the platform, and then they find out overnight that they can't get the product that they really wanted. So there's probably been a reorientation in the marketing spend towards compounded semaglutide, towards liraglutide, towards metformin-based solution oral pills. And so I think they are revamping their entire weight loss category. And of course, we know oral pills are a big deal. We know it's more than 100 million of their sales. There was also a slight reason as to why the quarter was down, and Yemi said that on the call in Q2. It was like, we saw a downturn in the ED segment. And, I follow LifeMD. LifeMD as a copycat, RexMD. It's a copycat of HIMSS. They noted the same issue in the ED segment, but LifeMD said that the issue was fixed. And my guess is that the whole sector experienced a drop in ED sales, and ED is still a very, very big business for HIMSS. They experienced that drop because of a very, very aggressive ad campaign. Maybe it was a Blue Chew ad campaign. I'm not so sure. But from what I understand, that issue has been fixed. And actually, these annoying Blue Chew ads, I don't see them as much. So I'm wondering if it had to do something with that. But I expect a rebound in ED, and that's based on what LifeMD said on their own call. And so they had a decline in ED. I think they fixed that issue. So that's why I'm like, we could have an either flat or slightly up or slightly down. If I get anything like that, I'll be happy. Now, if we get a big decline, of course, I'm going to be unhappy. But I don't think we're going to get a big decline. Let's talk a little bit about the reasons to be optimistic for the revenue to be up. I want to point out, not a lot of people discussed this the past few days, but they just launched a microdose of GLP-1. Now, if you don't follow the space too closely, and I'm not too big in social media, but I can tell you one thing about microdosing GLP-1. It's all the craze in social media. Even on X, which is clearly not the biggest social media to follow health stuff, right? Instagram, I'm not on Instagram, but Instagram is the bigger one. Microdose GLP-1 have been all the rage on Instagram, all the rage on TikTok. And you have very big accounts like Andrew Uberman, 7 million, talking about, the advantages of microdosing. Even Brian Johnson, starting a new longevity protocol, microdose microdosing tirzepatide. So microdosing GLP-1 has been a big deal. It expands your total addressable market because a lot of people, wouldn't qualify for a full dose GLP-1 because they are not big enough. You have a lot of people who are just a little bit overweight. Like you have a BMI of 26 or something. You just need to lose a few pounds. The fact that they're launching a microdose of GLP-1 for only $199 a month is a big deal because you are going to get a bunch of people who want to be on GLP-1 for minor weight loss that could be easily gotten through diet. And you have also people who are using GLP-1 peptides for things like shopping cessation or alcohol cessation. There's quite a few benefits to GLP-1s. I even listened to a podcast who was saying that, it's a good idea for anybody above 40, regardless of what they have to GLP-1. I mean, it's to microdose GLP-1. It's no investment advice, no investment advice, no health advice here, but it's been trending. It's been trending, and a lot of the doctors have been describing a microdose of GLP-1. Why have they been doing that? Because you get very, very much fewer side effects. Ozempic face apparently is a thing that a lot of women are concerned about. You don't get it when you microdose. There's a bunch of side effects that you don't get when you microdose, and it on the surface of it makes sense. Of course, no medical advice. I am not a doctor, but HIMSS has a bunch of doctors, right? They have 1,500 medical professionals that you get connected with in their network, in their back end. And so if you're interested in these solutions, you can go on HIMSS and you can discuss with a medical professional. And if the medical professional is sovereign, they will decide whether you qualify or not for these drugs. That's the power of HIMSS that is forgotten by, I think, most of the market. Whenever HIMSS stock drops because of a news on GLP-1 getting cheaper, HIMSS stock drop, people forget that the big advantage of HIMSS is that in that $199 per month, you get a doctor, you get to talk to a medical professional, a nurse practitioner or a doctor, you get to talk and you get that access, and you don't have to pay sometimes $400 for a doctor visit like it is in the real world. People often forget about that. That's the big advantage of HIMSS is the medication, of course, is one advantage, but then the advice and the doctor with the price embedded in the medication. It's one clear price and you have the doctor embedded in the medication. I will keep fighting that battle and talking about this. This is still something that people misunderstand. The bundling of the drug with the doctor, bundled in one single price. And also, if you don't qualify, you don't pay, which is another big deal. Anyways, moving on, there's been, this has been an exciting quarter for HIMSS. There's been two major launches that we had been waiting for quite a while. Testosterone launch. So most of the quarter of Q3 should capture the testosterone launch. Now, of course, when you launch a product, it's not going to be meaningful in the revenue right away. But I think there will be heavy discussion on the testosterone launch. And, maybe that moves the needle a little bit because they launched it early in September. So that's going to count a lot in that quarter. And, keep in mind that testosterone is very important because you can do a lot of cross-selling. HIMSS is the oldest, quote-unquote, ED drug provider online. So there's a lot of cross-selling that can happen. And you gotta realize, like HIMSS, if they have a long time ED customer who has been taking an ED pill for a long time, it's an easy cross-sell for them to try to see if that customer may need HRT, and you sell both products. And so that's a big deal. Testosterone treatments, testosterone HRT, very, very, very popular. I always take the example of, your typical American strip mall. You're going to have one of these low-T stores somewhere. That's often the example I take about how popular these treatments are. And my guess is that they're going to do a lot of business. And of course, they're able to do this because they have labs now. They have the Tribe acquisition, which allows them to do remote labs. It's a big deal. They couldn't have launched testosterone without labs, right? But they have labs. Now, they are also launching HERS. They launched HERS. So HERS, we're going to see the commentary on this, but I think what I mean is they launched Menopause, right? They launched Menopause treatment at hers. That's I think what's going to take the her side of the business to $1 billion or more. Menopause treatment. Again, also something very much needed. Something that if you want to get it treated in the real world may need you to see 2 to 3 doctors in what I call the infamous ping pong. You go see your medical practitioner, your main one, your physical, then they refer you to someone else. And sometimes, depending on the issue, you maybe refer to a third person. So next thing you know, you have $1,000 in doctor visits, right? You don't have that issue with HIMSS because it's bundled in the pricing. So I don't expect any revenue, of course, on this because this was launched in October 15, so quite not captured. I don't expect revenue for this, but the commentary will be important. And then the international acquisition. So we should get more information about that. Keep in mind, they acquired Zava. Zava, from what I read, apparently is doing very well in Germany. So we'll have to see how this goes and the commentary on that. So that could be positive. This is not for this quarter, but I'm a long-term investor, so I can't help to not forget to remind you that generic semaglutide is launched in Canada in 2026 because Novo forgot to renew the patent. This is a literal thing. This is pretty crazy. They did not renew the patent, so the lucky Canadians are going to get generic semaglutide before everybody else because they wanted to save $200 on a patent renewal at Novo. So very interesting stuff. Anyways, let's talk about the stock price. So HIMSS has been absolutely crazy. More volatile than Bitcoin. More volatile than Tesla, a trader's paradise, a trader's dream, and we in 2 weeks. Roughly, we had a 30% change. So we went to 63 to 44, right? And we were back at 44 like 4 weeks before. So 4 weeks you go from 44 to 63 and then you go back to 44. This stock is a roller coaster. It's done how many round trips between the 60s and the 40s? Like 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, and it's probably going to be 5 in a matter of 6 months. Well, we'll see. But this stock surges a lot of earnings. So if there's good earnings, we could have had 5 round trips of 30%, up, down, up, down, up, down, 5 times in a matter of 6 months, or a little more than 6 months. So this stock is extremely volatile. That's why I hold it for a long run. Of course, I consider it a steal at 40, 45. And my metrics, my EV over GP over RG, I didn't put it in this video, but it's looking much lower now than it was 2 weeks ago. And so it's looking pretty good now. I find the stock cheap. The last thing I wanted to say, and of course I'll cover HIMSS more on Monday after the earnings. It's a top stock of the channel. I provide full coverage of the stock. One more thing that I want to discuss is JPMorgan. That's in the title here, but JPMorgan buying in. It's very interesting to me because we are used to headlines, to people who don't know too much about the market, and they're like, oh, BlackRock owns, Vanguard owns. And when you have an headline like that says, oh, Vanguard owns 10% of it of whatever company, we know they own these stocks on behalf of index funds. Like, we know that's not a meaningful signal. When Vanguard owns 10% of a company, it's not a meaningful signal because they own it on behalf of their retirees, of the index funds, of the people who just save via the retirement solutions, right? But for JPMorgan, it's a little different. I don't often see JPMorgan come up as a top holder of a stock. So I'm wondering what's going on. Why is JPMorgan owning such a big stake? Is it a hedge fund position? They have a big hedge fund solutions division with a lot of money in their asset management division. So could it be JPMorgan's hedge fund solution? Could a hedge fund have a big trade in place before the earnings? That's of course what a lot of people on X are implying. And I don't know what's going on. It could be entirely related to a volatility trade, right? It could be related to that. It could be a swap, as some people say. But I think it's more credible that they would have a trade than, say, Vanguard. Like, if it was a Vanguard owns 8%, I would entirely dismiss that news. The fact that it's JPMorgan and that they have a hedge fund position and they own 8%, I'm not going to dismiss this as much. Maybe they know something we don't, right? Maybe there's something going on. So it's a little more meaningful, I would say, than, say, just a Vanguard owns 8%. That's not meaningful. I think that's a little more meaningful. Some people are praising this as a signal that it's going to be a great quarter quarter. Others are dismissing it as it's a nothing burger. So we'll see. We'll see what that goes. We'll know more on Monday. But I'm bullish as ever on HIMS. HIMS has been an amazing position. I've been into HIMS since it was $6 a share. So I'm pretty amazed, and I want to own it for a long run. And I think it's going to be a much bigger company in the future. Anyways, this was not investment advice, not financial advice, only entertainment. I'm hoping you were entertained. Please like, please subscribe, follow me on Patreon, follow me on X. Thank you for watching, and have a wonderful, wonderful day.